Okay, welcome everybody to GenPower, which is the motivational and inspirational side of Gen Hope. This is where we want to bring you inspiring interviews with people that really have inspired me and encouraged me to be able to bring your life to the next level. There's a saying that we say that God's gift to us is life, and what we do with that life is our gift back to God. These videos, I truly believe, will bring life to your life. And really, be an honor to God. So really enjoy it. Okay, this is with Dr. John Andrews. Talk about how do we overcome pain? How do we take those broken parts of our life, put them back together and become more powerful? I think you're really going to enjoy this one. God bless you. Okay, so it's a pleasure to be obviously being back with a good friend, Mr. Doctor, not even Mr. Dr. John Andrews. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you, man. Bless you, yeah.
Obviously, the reason for today is we did this interview a couple of years ago around one of your previous books, Beyond Mediocrity, which is a phenomenal book, and I'd recommend everyone to go and read that as well. But you have a new book out, and we want to talk about. Just tell everyone about the book.
Yeah, well, the latest book is it's called Beyond Broken.
Yeah.
Finding Power in the Pain.
Finding power
in the pain.
So we'll find out in the next 45 minutes if that's actually possible. But obviously, just a little bit of background about yourself. This is like your 13th book. Yes. Research this time, a little bit more knowledgeable this time.
Yes. It's I really enjoy writing. So I've been in Christian ministry, we would say full time for 30 years. That means I got paid to do it, which is wonderful. And in that part of that process, I just wanted to write, felt the call to write, and back in 2001 started writing, self-published my first few books. And then eventually got picked up by a publisher who felt I had something to say.
Fantastic.
And I've been writing ever since. So I've really enjoyed it. So my ambition was to try and write a book a year. Haven't quite achieved that, but
impressive.
13's better than nothing.
That's the one. So as we go into this book, then, so I was looking through the catalogue of books, everything different, extravagant, beyond mediocrity. Here's a question. I haven't got this one down. Have the books followed whatever you're going through at that time? So like Beyond Mediocrity, was that a sense of I see that the climate is at this level, extravagant or whatever it may be, and now this one, is it something where you're either going through something, you see something, and that's what triggers that book for that season? So are we almost following your life?
In some ways you are. You're certainly following if you like, the revelation passions of my life. What I've tried to do in my writing is say what I see, rather than just engage in a sort of a purely academic exercise. So each book reflects something of the power of the revelation of that moment of my journey. So things that I really believe, things that I feel so passionately about, I want to communicate. So each of those have reflected that. And I think that's what makes them in some ways so personal, and then also hopefully so authentic. So what I'm trying not to do is just churn out information. I'm trying to actually talk about stuff that has engaged me and is changing me, and therefore if it's changing me, could it help change somebody else?
So obviously that leads obviously to the first question I actually had, is that the book Beyond Broken, obviously there's a snippet that talks about why it was written. So why don't you give us some background into what was the inspiration at that time, where you were sitting wherever you were sitting in a coffee house or wherever you find your inspiration, you think that's the next book I'm going to pen?
It's 2017 as we do this interview, but since 2013 I've experienced a number of real life challenges, so ranging from the unexpected passing of my brother with cancer, and then a few months later my father, which and I miss my dad every day, think of him every day, to having some big challenges around my ministry development, where a number of shocks really took place for me that I didn't expect, loss of employment in a way that I didn't expect that to happen, and then my own son's journey. So through a very difficult circumstance, my son, I have 3 children, 2 daughters and a son, and my son ended up accused of something, and we ended up after 18 months in court. And had he been found guilty of that, he would have gone to jail for 7 years. So the last 4 or 5 years have been amongst my most happy exciting
Right.
and blessed, and yet the last 5 years have pushed me to the edge of my personal, what felt like my personal ability to endure. I've been tested as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a leader in the last 5 years in ways I just didn't imagine. And I've discovered things about myself, some of them good, some of them bad, and a few things ugly. You know, you discover about yourself in those moments. You know, my granny used to have an old contraption called a mangle, and the mangle was like pre dryer days where you would put wet clothes through the mangle, crank it round, and it would literally squeeze the water out of the clothes. So, and of course, as a child, I would play with other things and see what else would go through the mangle and what would happen. As you do.
Curiosity.
And what I discovered back then was this principle, and I've been reminded of it again through Beyond Broken, is that when you're put under pressure, what is in you comes out of you.
Right. That's a good.
And John Maxwell, a great leadership author, said this, that pressure doesn't create character, it reveals character. And so Beyond Broken is really a very honest and hopefully authentic, a little bit raw journey of
when you
being...
say raw, in what way is it?
Well, it'll cover material that would make maybe people feel a bit uncomfortable.
Right, okay.
We've tried to be careful about what we talk about because it's not a biography. It's a theology with stories attached. But it's raw in the sense that I haven't pulled back in terms of some of my own emotions and feelings in those moments, and some of the darkness of my own soul, and things I discovered about myself and things that our family went through, which, you know, can feel a little bit uncomfortable, especially when people read that from a position where they maybe expect people to have a better life.
And that's one of the things I think about you as you talk about that now is if you look, obviously you're married, you've got a beautiful marriage, you know, you guys are so in love, you know, kids who just seem exemplary, you know, and 2 great dogs, I think it's 2. 2
pepperoni and salami.
So it was almost like that picture perfect, you know, family, and surely nothing goes wrong in the Andrews house, but actually it's great for you to say, actually, I'm just like everybody else.
Yes, absolutely. And I think what we've tried to do in Beyond Broken is the fact that at one level you're carrying on with what is normal life, but at the same time you're contending with stuff that is really abnormal. So cancer is not normal. Taking your son to court is not normal. Self-harming is not normal. Depression, those things. No one gets up in the morning and wants to be any of those things. You know, no one wants to have any of those things. When we think about success for our life, and we think about the future, and we think about the dreams we have for our children, and we think about the dreams we have for ourselves, we don't think about cancer. We don't think about self-harming and going to court and losing your job. Those are the issues they're not on the plan.
You know they're out there, but not for my life.
Absolutely. But then what happens when they hit your life? What happens when they invade your world? When you feel like, you know, you haven't done anything to really merit that stuff coming at you, what do you do? And it's how you process that pain will determine whether we end up dying in the pain or finding power in that pain. And I think that's one of the greatest challenges that human beings face. It's the expectation of life and the reality of the everyday, and you're holding the two things in tension quite constantly.
And do you know the title of the book, Beyond Broken? Did you then feel at times, did that, and I'm assuming now that the title came from you, and obviously our publishing house could come out with the creativity of it, but was it you going, actually, at times I felt broken? You know, whether that be my dad with cancer, your son, and stuff like that. Did you feel broken, and that's why you use the words Beyond Broken? Yes,
I mean the title is mine, so the publishing house literally accepted the title and subtitle as I presented it. Beyond Broken, Finding Power in the Pain. And it's a deliberate title because there were moments where the Bible says, God won't allow you to be tempted beyond that which you can bear.
Yeah.
And there were a number of moments where I'm thinking, okay, I think I'm beyond that point now.
Yeah.
And the sense of if there's one more little straw on the back of this camel, I'm done.
Broken, yeah.
And if I could have emigrated to Mars with my family, if I could have found a way out that was moral and legal,
yeah,
I would have taken it. And I have to say, like in the darkest moments, for example, of our journey around Simeon and Court, I understand why people hit drugs. I do understand why people, after an experience like that, will just go and get blasted.
Yeah.
Or try and find some out in something that's not really all that helpful, because you feel like you're totally alone. You feel like the world's against you.
Yeah.
You feel like everything you've believed in is being pushed to the very edge.
Yeah.
And you're sort of saying, Lord, come on, where are you? Where's the rescue plan?
Yeah, in all of this.
And it's profoundly difficult.
And how do you find, because you mentioned the balance of, these are my desires, I desire success, and so on for my family, and then the reality of life. And something that we were talking before the recording, we said that the one thing that keeps us all common is not, fame and money, and not everybody is able to achieve, but the one thing that keeps us all is pain.
Yeah.
But it feels like no matter, even though we know it's everywhere, we know cancer's there, we know all these things that happen, it still becomes a big shock.
Yeah.
Even for you, someone who's learned, you're an author, you've read, you've obviously counselled numerous amounts of people.
Yeah.
Did it still come as a shock to you, and why does it still come as a shock to everybody when pain or discouragement comes, when we know it's all around us?
It's a great question. I mean, personally, it's not that pain per se was a shock, it was the type of pain.
Right, oh okay.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
So let me explain that. You're alive for 5 minutes as a human being, and you know about pain.
Yeah.
So it's not that pain in itself is a shock, because that's just part and parcel of the life we live. It's my brother has cancer.
Yeah.
Right. We didn't expect that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You get the call, my son's been arrested.
Yeah.
Well, you're sacked. So it's not just pain as a principle. I don't think that shocks people. I think most sensible, wise, grounded people understand that no matter how good life gets, there are moments of difficulty. It's when you get that unexpected moment of pain, or a moment of pain that you hoped would never come.
Right. Oh,
that,
okay.
or you believed that you were protected from.
Yeah.
So sometimes for Christians, for example, and that would be a world I'm very familiar with, in terms of Christianity, there can be a theology that says if you love God and you put him first and you obey him and do everything he's asked you to do, then this stuff will never come near your house.
Yeah.
And I call this Jobology.
Oh, okay, so, it's a new term.
Yeah, so it's the book of Job, and the book of Job, we get the backstory because the devil has come to God and essentially said, take the hedge off Job and we'll see what he does.
Yeah.
And so that we know the backstory, but Job's friends don't.
Yeah.
So all they're seeing is the collateral. They're seeing the carnage. They're seeing his stock value has dropped. They're seeing the fact he's lost all his houses. They're seeing the fact every member of his family's been killed with the exception of his wife. And their conclusion is, Job, what have you done?
What have you done? Naturally.
Yeah. So there's a theology that's grown up, I think not always very helpful and not totally biblical at times, that says if you're good, you're blessed, and if you're bad, you're cursed. So when good people who are doing all the things, ticking the checklist of good spirituality, then cancer happens.
Yeah.
It can be a moment of shock to their spiritual system, and they go, well, I'm doing all this, why has this happened? Why has God let that happen?
Why me?
Yeah, I tithe, why have I lost my job?
Yeah.
We raised our kids, took them to church, why are they doing drugs? So you're processing not just the pain per se, you're processing that against your expectation. You're processing that against even your theology as a Christian. And of course, we're living in a culture today that has created massively high expectations for people. If you want it, you can have it. You can be anything you want to be. You can go anywhere you want to go. You can do anything you want to do.
Yeah.
And actually, I wrote a book a little while ago called The Freedom of Limitation, and in that I argued that's one of the worst things at times we can say to people, that actually people have to learn to live within a framework of freedom that allows them to be the best they can be within that framework without creating unhealthy expectations that they'll never reach.
The X Factor.
Absolutely.
Scenario. Oh, okay.
It is. So it's the kid on the X Factor saying, "My mum thinks I'm a great singer."
Yeah.
And of course she does. She's your mum.
Yeah.
That's what mums do.
Yeah. And the pain of dealing with that then.
But then this gorgeous child standing on the stage, just stripped and brutalised by comments from the judge, or even worse, the boos of the audience, and it's a terrible. Then the pain itself is one thing, but then the pain coupled to the expectation,
right?
That's brutal. That it's that tension of what I expected and hoped for, and what is happening. Yeah. That's the tension.
Because one of the things I was looking at, I think why I was so keen about doing this interview is that, you know, even in last week, I've seen loads of posts on Instagram and social media around mental illness.
Yep.
It's a big thing at the moment. I know the NHS is one of the largest things that they're now dealing with is mental illness. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned obviously the society that we're in. Do you feel that that's causing people to feel even more broken and discouragement? Because obviously you use the word discouragement and pain.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of discouragement. Younger and younger people now dealing with depression.
Yeah. Going
through a lot of pain where when I was growing up it didn't seem to be that way.
Yes.
Or maybe I was just ignorant to it, I don't know.
Yes.
But do you feel that the social climate is causing a lot of more people to feel broken?
I think it's certainly a factor. You know, mental health is a deeply complex issue.
Yeah.
It can be around the personhood, the personality, the experiences of that person. I think societal pressures aren't helping us.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that there is a high expectation culture, especially in Western countries, where there is a high expectation that you should achieve certain things. You should have a house by a certain stage. You should drive a certain type of car. You should earn a certain level of income, etc., etc. Social media weirdly hasn't always helped that, because you only see the Instagram world of the successful. So, you know, you see those highlight moments that make everyone who's not having a very good moment feel even worse about themselves.
Yeah.
So then you have the tyranny of comparison, which I think social media has exasperated exponentially. Because that darkness is in all of us, the darkness of comparing yourself to your neighbour, comparing yourself to your friends. That's in every one of us, and you have to fight that. Layer on top of that social media where it's coming at me all the time, and it looks like everybody else is having a brilliant life except me. And then add to that, I think, the pressure we're under today.
Yeah.
You know, my dad could get up in the morning and walk to work. Yeah. Today on the news, you know, the average British person commutes 58 minutes to work. One way. So you're it's an hour to work. You're doing 7-8 hours at work and an hour home. By the time you get home, you're just wasted. You're still absolutely
left.
Absolutely. So then, but family could be waiting for you at home, or other pressures are waiting for you at home, or maybe because of your financial pressure, you're having to do another job when you get home, and so the layers of pressure I think that we're under today in modern society are huge, and they are different than even 50 years ago. Yeah. But also the expectations placed on people.
So the pressure, the expectations, more and more people now are broken.
Absolutely.
So would you say, and this is a great thing as we start to lead into some of your techniques or things that we can, you know, draw out from the book and things like that, is there's a lot more people broken than we're actually seeing.
Yes.
And I think that's the great thing about the honesty of this book, is you're saying that, look, behind every picture, there's a story. And I think that's what you said, is that if you have this expectation and you have the pressure, you're going to feel brokenness. Or even if you didn't have that in life, you're going to have that. So if everybody's facing that, okay, so we've got a standpoint, we know that that's common ground. Why is it then that some people seem to thrive? Yeah. Okay, and you hear the stories, and I think I was saying to you earlier, I read Elon Musk's book, and all the pressures he's gone through, and he's now, the Tony Starks of business and things like that. And then the other people, can have a bad tire, and that breaks them, and they can't bring back the pieces together. So why is it that we have some who are thriving and some who are just dying?
Yeah, it's a great question. Again, I think there are multiple layers of complexity in that, in terms of some of that can be to do with how a person is wired, and therefore there are internal factors that maybe make a relatively small issue disproportionately big in the mind of someone, or it's a culmination of a whole raft of other issues where the flat tire is just the straw that breaks the camel's back. Right. It's the last thing. So I wouldn't be expert enough to comment on that, but I would say this in sort of the context of that. Whatever your personality type, what is crucial are the choices we're making in response to pain and in response to brokenness. Those choices are crucial. And I think if we're making consistently the right sorts of choices, then that has the power to position us in the sort of place that allows us to face our brokenness and pain, and hopefully then start the journey of overcoming that. Right. And I've discovered over and over again that the choices I make personally and the choices I make around the community that I live in are absolutely crucial to helping me get through those particular issues. And that's why I think a strong sense of belief system and worldview is crucial to addressing pain. So it's not just about my personality type, is the key to getting through the pain. That's a factor. But I have discovered now, I'm 51 years of age, and I have discovered it is the engine room of my belief system, fueled by my community, fueled by the key factors that are feeding me. That is a crucial element to helping me process pain and giving me answers to the questions. And even when there's no answer to the question, giving me resolve to keep going when there's no answer.
So you don't have to just be this Rambo, take a bullet and I still keep on running. It's not. That's not what you're saying. Is actually your belief system. Is that linked to your character? That then links to your characteristics of how you deal with things?
I think so. I think it's all linked. I think your belief system helps you to then address the shock of the moment and something coming at you didn't expect. Your belief system helps you to address the unanswered question as well as the answered question. So in our family, we jokingly had an internal hashtag, and the hashtag was "None of this makes sense."
I like that,
But the ability to say that something doesn't make sense is only possible because you've got a belief system that allows you to say that doesn't make sense, but I'm still going to hold on to the things that do make sense. So if you don't have a strong belief system there, then the stuff that doesn't make sense derails you. It throws you off. So, well, that doesn't make sense to me, therefore that becomes the do or die issue. Whereas if you've got a strong belief system, that actually allows you to look at a moment that doesn't make sense and say, okay, I don't understand that, I don't get that, I don't know why that happened, but I believe this, and I'm going to still hold on to this. And I think that's really important.
So let's say then, because obviously right at the beginning of the interview you talked about the different factors, obviously losing your dad, which was incredibly difficult for you, and still something you're dealing with. Obviously losing your brother, Simeon, work scenario, you used the word being sacked. If we can draw out one of those factors, one of those things, so people can relate, and then what I want you to do is the tips that you have from the book, advice that we will draw out beyond Broken. If we could put some principles or some teachings around one of those things, so anyone's watching this, they can say, well, I can relate to that story. And then I can understand how he's taken himself from here, being broken, to actually, what was the subline to the book?
Finding power in the pain.
Finding power. Okay, so that's the transformation from being broken into finding the power. So which one would you? There was a lot there to go with in a short amount of time. I think you said 5 years and all that happened.
I mean, I think the Simeon experience was the most challenging and difficult because of the length of time. From beginning to end, it was 18 months. Wow. And then in that process, my son bright, happy, easy-go-lucky sort of boy descended into terrible depression with this hanging over him, and at the worst moment of his depression, self-harmed. Wow. Which then was a huge tipping moment for me. You know, as a dad, as a pastor, as a husband. That was, I mean, my wife, she was heroic in that period. So I pick on that because I think people can identify with things that go wrong in family that you're working very hard to fix, but some of the factors are outside of your control. You can't fix them. Yeah. So we were working on Simeon and working with each other and trying to stay together. There was this whole world outside of Simeon that we had no control over. It was someone else was driving that agenda. So the CPS, the barristers, the lawyers, they were driving that agenda, and you felt like you were a fish on the hook. Yeah. So you're doing your best to sort of keep normal, but you feel like someone else is pulling the strings of my life at this moment.
I have no control.
Absolutely. And that's where we coined the phrase, #none of this makes sense. We couldn't get to grips with that. So then what it forced us to do was get to grips with the bits we could get to grips with.
So that's powerful. Oh, okay.
All right.
So don't focus on the things that you can't control. Focus on the things you can control.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's powerful. Okay.
If I'd have focused on the things that I couldn't control, mate, I'd have spun it.
Yeah.
All right. Like seriously, if you'd have said to me, "Here's a one-way ticket to Mars," I'd have sold everything I owned. Yeah. And bought it. Right. Seriously, because the stuff that's outside of your control is completely terrifying.
Yeah.
It's just, my son could go to jail. The barrister might not do a good job. The CPS might just, the judge may not like the look of this. Yeah. The jury might think, ooh, a bit dodgy. It's all of that's outside of your control, and you're going, Lord, I don't know what to do with that. Yeah. And actually, the most liberating moment was coming to realization, well, you can't do anything about it, so don't focus on it.
And do you find that most people, because of your pastoral background, do you find that most people, that's what they do? When they're facing a problem, a discouragement, a pain, they focus on everything that that they can't control instead of what they
it's a natural human thing.
Right, okay.
It doesn't make us bad, it makes us human.
Yeah.
Human beings will worry about stuff that they can't control, and we worry about stuff before it's even happened. Yeah. So we're going to see the doctor and we're worrying about what the doctor's going to say, and we haven't even got there yet.
Yeah.
I've got a pain in my head, is that just a headache or is that like a tumour? It's that sort of stuff that ordinary people worry about. The kids, it's 11 o'clock, the kids aren't in, where are they? What's happened? So that's just human. Yeah. That's just human. But when you're in an extreme moment, if you focus on the uncontrollable, you're dead.
Right. So how did you do that then? So is that something that you practiced? Is it something that you and your wife sat down and said, okay, well look, we're worrying about things we can't control.
Yep.
Did you get a piece of paper? What's that practical tip that someone could take away from, okay, I've got it. How do I execute that principle?
It was as simple as that. It was coming to the recognition we can't control that.
Right.
So what are we? Absolutely. So you've got to be honest and acknowledge that is what it is. And outside of God doing a miracle for us, that is what it is. Right. We can't control that.
Yeah.
So we've got to just put that there. And then what that forced us to do was ask the sorts of questions. What do we need to do in the world of our ordinary everyday that will then help fight against this terrifying, uncontrollable bit?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So what's going to defend us against that? And that's where we worked really hard on simple things. And for me, there were, in the book, in terms of weapons. Now, I'm not talking about processing your depression. I'm talking about trying to address an uncontrolled situation outside of your control. There were four things we tried to think about. Yeah. Number one was word. So for us as followers of Jesus, our belief system would be Bible rooted. So one response to that was we've got to get into the Word of God and hear from God something He wants to say to us in the midst of this.
So there's a lesson. Is that almost like someone saying, So someone who's not a Christian,
Yep.
And they're trying to unpack what you just said, is that someone saying, in the midst of this, there is something
Yep.
I can learn,
Absolutely.
or something I can grow from, or
Yes,
is that what you're
or even deeper than that.
Yeah.
In terms of one step removed from that, it's believing. So for a person who's not a Christian, it's believing something about yourself
saying? Yeah,
that is both wholesome, true, and good. That even the out of control situation can't get at,
right. Oh, okay.
can't change. So there's something here that is separate from that, but if you grab it, it has the power to actually help you combat
Right.
that.
Oh, okay.
So it's that sense of, what do I really believe about me?
Yeah.
What do I believe about my family? What do I believe about my God, if
Yeah.
that's relevant? What do I believe about my God's view of me?
Yeah.
So that's what I call word, digging into the
Oh,
word.
okay.
And that became life-saving
Yeah.
for us, because as followers of Jesus, that's the fuel of our belief system. That's the stuff that keeps that fire burning. And
That's like your foundation. So in the midst of the storm, your foundation is this.
Absolutely.
This is who I am. This is
Yes.
where we're going. This is what we're. Right. Okay.
So, the Lord gave us promises. I mean, I have them tattooed in my arm now. The Lord gave us promises that literally held us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, here's the irony, right, Denzel? It's nothing changed.
Yeah. You're right. Okay. Yeah. The problem still happened.
The problems. So I talk about Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the darkest valley,
Yeah.
you are with me, and actually this idea that there are moments when He walks with us through the valley, and there are moments when He rescues us from the valley.
Right.
This was a moment where we walked through it. There was no exit. There was no SAS angelic team,
Yeah.
spiraling down out of the helicopter to pull us out of this valley. We had to walk through this valley, and even though we would have loved an exit sign somewhere, there was none coming. So we had to find some sense of belief resolve in that process that would hold us steady while all of this out of control stuff outside of our control was happening.
So did you stop wishing then? So some good principles. So one of the things you said is focus on the things that you can control.
Yep.
But another thing that I'm trying to draw out what you just said there is, don't always wish to be taken out of it. How can I go through it?
Yep.
Give me the strength to go through it. Whatever I've got to go through, if I've got to go through this thing, I can't stop it, as you've said. Give me the strength and the foundation to remain strong going through it. So don't wish it away.
Absolutely.
Right, okay.
I mean, 100%. And so there's like a double-edged prayer you pray. The prayer is, Lord, anytime now.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So if you could just, that SAS team, that would be just super.
They're very good.
And that'd be great. And you in your brain, even though you shouldn't do it, you're making all sorts of bargains with Almighty God. Okay, I'll give you this, I'll give you that. You just come up with the goods. All right. So you're sort of praying a prayer of faith that says you are still able to rescue us. But I love what the 3 Hebrew boys said in the midst of the fire, as they're about to be put into this fire of persecution when they were in exile. The Bible tells us that they said, "We believe God can deliver us," right?
Yeah.
But even if He doesn't.
Wow.
And there's this lovely little phrase in English, even if. And for us, there was this even if journey, right? Lord, we believe that, so to personalize it, the CPS could say, no case to answer, throw it out, or that somebody changes their mind, or that the accusation goes away, right? So you believe that. But even if.
Wow.
So you're holding a tension that you're hoping for a rescue, but you're not focusing on that to the point where it's derailing you from the routine and the normal. We had to get up every day, pay our bills. The mortgage company didn't say, "Hey, you're having a hard day, you don't have to pay your mortgage today." Life went on. My daughter had to go to school. My son, even in his difficulty with depression, had to get up and go to work. We had to go to work every day. We had to walk our dogs. We had to feed our children. You have this normal stuff that's going on, and this abnormal world sitting there, and the tension of God can do a miracle, but even if He doesn't, we've got to find truth and life in the normal to keep this as normal as possible.
I love that principle because it's almost like your third principle. I don't know if you're giving them out like that, but it's almost, even if things don't change for the next year, 2 years, or whatever it may be, this is what we're going to do.
Absolutely.
So you've made a decision.
Totally.
This is who we're going to be. This is what we're going to be about.
Absolutely. And connected with that, for us, the four things really quickly were word, worship. So again, that's a very Christian worldview thing. So worship means, in this context, confessing the goodness of God over your life, even though stuff sucks.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So that doesn't look good, but God is still good, because that's the truth. And bringing a praise, worship, confession to the circumstances that aren't changing.
So was you able to have, is that almost trying to find, still having gratitude and finding, okay,
exactly,
that's not good, but there is still good.
Absolutely.
In the midst of everything, there is always something good.
Yep.
And it was almost forcing yourself, every day, I'm going to find something that is good, that you guys are still alive.
Yes.
I'd rather have you alive and fighting than not, okay.
So like Paul in 2 Corinthians, he says, in the midst of his own suffering, he says, I'm beaten, but I'm not killed.
Yeah, right, okay.
All right? I'm poor, yet I make many rich. I have nothing, yet I possess everything. It's a beautiful juxtaposition, and that's exactly what we had to go through, where you're going, there's poverty in this moment, but we're going to do this. We've been beaten, but we're still alive.
Brilliant.
And I remember one prayer time literally spending 45 minutes or so, and I just relentlessly thank God for every good thing in my life. Excellent. In the midst of that. So this is pre-going to court, and I felt awful. There were no angels in the room. There was no Hillsong band playing in the background.
Yes.
It was
no candles.
Absolutely. 6:30 in the morning. You just don't feel anything, and yet I over and over I just reminded myself of the goodness of God. So that's really important for us.
So you had the word,
worship,
a solid foundation, worship, which is like gratitude. I'm going to find the good, even though everything else is going on. Okay. Brilliant.
Third one, to try and stay with the W theme, I used as walk. That's those who walk with you. So Solomon says, two's better than one, and it goes on to say this: pity the man who falls and there's no one to pick him up.
Right.
And so the people you walk with are crucial. And when you're facing pain or depression, your natural response, human response, is you withdraw.
Right, I see that so many times.
Absolutely.
People don't want to answer the phone, people don't want to talk anymore. That's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, and that's not you being bad, that's you being human.
Yeah.
So the human person in you just withdraws because you feel rubbish about yourself, you feel terrible about your world, you believe you're useless, worthless, a million things are going through your head. All those emotions force you away from community. And that's exactly the moment where this counterintuitive idea has to kick in, where you grab community, or you allow them to grab you. And
so what did you do in your walk then, keeping with it? Did you have, was it your friendships or accountability partners, or
yes.
I don't know what you...
Yes, so Dawn and I worked very hard together, because stuff like this can fracture your marriage apart. I mean, this pushed, Dawn and I will be married 30 years in July.
Congratulations.
2018,
wow.
Which is wonderful. But mate, this pushed us. I mean, we're pretty tight, and this pushed us to the edge. So we try to ensure that we were together, walking this road together, and not allowing anything to get in between us, and keeping short accounts and talking.
Mentioning about being naked in your walk. Your friends.
So it's a place where you can be vulnerable with those you trust.
Yeah.
And in that place of vulnerability, you're able to bring everything to the light. And I had a handful of people that I would trust with my PIN code.
Yeah.
So, the sorts of people that would hear the darkest challenges of my heart and not judge me.
Right.
And sometimes not even bring an answer, sometimes just their presence and their prayer. The fact that I was heard by somebody. Now, if you haven't got those naked friends, then that could be a professional.
Right.
That could be a really great counsellor.
Yeah.
Or even a relative that you trust. But it's finding that place where someone walks with you on that journey. Not just a drop in, drop out, but someone who's going to walk with you. And that element was amazing. And getting those friends around dinner tables, having good food with good friends is just it doesn't just fill your stomach, it fills your heart, and we determined not to let go of that. We determined to really press into that, and that was probably a third key factor.
Fantastic. So just to recap, as we go over those, so you had the word, you had worship, the walk, okay.
And then the last one, to keep in the W theme, was I labelled it in the book. I label it world, and what I mean by that is focusing on something outside yourself. So the natural result of pain is you focusing.
Right.
So I remember my youngest daughter when she was little cutting her finger, and she was screaming and shouting, and Dawn brought her in and fixed her up, and it was a little grass cut, and put a plaster on her. She went back out and played with her friends, forgot all about her finger. She came back into the house, was walking through the living room, and I said to her, "Darling, how's your finger?" She went, "Oh, it's really sore." Right?
Yes, yeah.
And there's this principle that you follow your focus.
Right.
So, you know, if you focus on pain, you follow it. It's just natural. It's not because you're a bad person. It's just a principle of life. Your body follows your eyes in the natural. We've all been behind people in a car that are putting their mascara on or on their phone, and you can see the car drift because the body's following the eyes. And so it is in spiritual terms or internal emotional terms. You follow your focus. So if your focus is all on the pain, we're in trouble.
That's where your energy goes.
Absolutely.
Right.
So we found an incredible principle that we've lived by all of our lives, but it kicked in even more, that giving helps healing.
Say that again?
Giving helps healing.
Right.
So what we mean by that is, rather than focusing on ourselves, we try to look at situations that we could serve, people that we could bless. Literally, Dawn and I gave more money away. Now we're not doing that in some sort of magic formula. If I do this, God will rescue me. That wasn't. It was, we discovered this principle that if you focus in, the only thing you'll see is your pain. If you focus out, it puts your pain in perspective.
Right, I got it. Okay.
All right.
So you'll find someone who has a need, you think actually their situation is
absolutely
probably worse than mine.
Yeah.
They fathom what they're going through.
Yeah.
Which puts more perspective on yours. Is that
yes,
what that happens
absolutely.
In this situation?
That's one way. So for example, you can find someone worse than you, or it doesn't even have to be that. You're just finding something outside of yourself to pour yourself into.
Yeah.
So you're volunteering at a soup kitchen. You are helping, the next door neighbour cut her grass.
Yeah.
You are helping that old man with his shopping. You are a million things.
Right.
So what that does is, as you're helping somebody else, it's placing your own pain into perspective, and it doesn't go away. Like Beth Ann's finger didn't disappear. The cut was still there, but what happened was she took her focus off it. When she took her focus off it, she wasn't thinking about it all the time.
Okay.
It was when I reminded her of the pain that became the central focus of her life. And I think that's just a life principle. I think it's a spiritual principle. Had we focused only on Simeon's situation, we'd be dead.
Right, okay, some brilliant principles. So, just to recap, word, worship, walk, and then world, where we decide I'm just going to give back.
Yeah.
Which makes you realise, I think you mentioned a principle where you can look at things are going good. The fact that I can serve or help that person. All is not bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the things I was just thinking about, as you went through all four of those principles, they're almost like habits.
Yes.
So, would you say that you made all of those four things habitual?
Yes.
And if you can do that, that's how you conquer being broken.
Absolutely. I mean, for us, they became intentional actions.
Right. Okay.
Nothing to do with your feelings or emotions. Because if I had have addressed any of those four things via the lens of emotion, I wouldn't have done any of them. Because you didn't feel like doing any of those things.
Right, okay, so you have to override your emotions.
Absolutely.
And be intentional, habitual. These are the things we're going to do as a principle.
Yeah, so like this morning I shaved. I've never felt like shaving. I shaved for the first time as a sort of a 16-year-old, and I was excited then. I've never been excited since. So I shave because I have to. I shave because it's what I need to do. I brush my teeth because I have to do it. It's not that I wake up in the morning and go, oh, come on,
Yeah.
let's do this.
You see the benefit.
It's just something you do. And there are some habits of life that you just make a decision, this is so good for me,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it, no matter what.
Okay.
And so even for a person with no spirituality, someone who's no interest in Jesus the way I would have or you would have, there are really good life habits that we can put into practice that actually will pour health into us, which is the thing that helps you push back on the pain. So the pain may not disappear.
Yeah.
The disappointment may remain, but we're pushing back on it. So I talk about the principle in the book, don't let disappointed become disappointment.
Right, okay. I like that.
All right. Now they sound like the same thing, but they're different. So I'm a Liverpool supporter.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a Liverpool supporter. I had to get that in because the cameraman's a Man United supporter, so I had to put that in for him. You'll never walk alone and all that. Right? Now, if my team get to the cup final and lose, which we've done quite consistently recently, but if we get to the cup final and lose, that's disappointed.
Yeah.
If I burn my scarf and never support them again, that's disappointment.
Right. Oh, okay.
So I've allowed an event
Yeah.
to become an experience.
Right. Oh, okay. And that doesn't have to be the case.
No.
That's a decision. Then.
Absolutely. I've allowed a crisis to become a choice.
Yeah. Right.
So there's a great example of this in the Bible. After the resurrection of Jesus, 2 of the disciples don't believe that Jesus is risen from the dead, and they go home. They're heading home to their village. And Jesus comes alongside them and walks beside them. It's a really cool moment, right? But somehow they don't recognize him. They're kept from recognizing him. But they say this is their language. They say, we had hoped he was the one. So what ends up happening is they're disappointed they saw Jesus die on the cross. Becomes a disappointment, which means they leave Jerusalem and they've given up. They're going home. That's it. It's over. And every human being on the planet experiences disappointed.
Yeah. We don't have to have.
But every human being has a choice whether disappointed becomes disappointment.
Right.
And disappointment is the killer.
Yeah.
Not disappointed.
That happens.
So I didn't get that job, that's disappointed. Right?
Yeah.
I then give up on life, that's disappointment.
Wow, powerful.
Okay, I have cancer, that's disappointed.
Yeah.
I kill myself, or I give up on my life, or I packet it, that's disappointment. It moves into something else. I tremendously inspired by Breathe, the movie. I know by the time this will go out, this might be a bit dated, but the movie Breathe, about the guy who contracts polio, ends up paralyzed from the neck down. It is a tremendous motivation of people who refused, first of all, to allow him to quit. Yeah. And then he catches their optimism and vision, and then he won't quit. And it's an incredible literal illustration of not allowing a disappointed young man in the prime of his youth struck down to become a disappointment. He refused to give up ultimately and change people's lives in the most amazing way. So
you've unpacked some incredible things that you can apply to any situation, which I love. So I'm going to leave this is the final question. How has the pains that you've been through over the last 5 years, the disappointment, that you've been through, how have they made you better? Now that you've had this time to reflect, some of those events have passed, Simeon and things like that. How do you feel that the pain that you've gone through has made you better? Because the Bible talks about it, it's building that character, perseverance. How do you feel for you? Reflect on it. It's actually made you better.
I'd say the things in themselves haven't made me better. Yeah. Because some of those things nearly killed me. Yeah. And I wouldn't wish some of those things on my worst enemy. Yeah. I have 3 kids. I'd love them never to get cancer. Yeah, that's it. Right. So you wouldn't want those things to happen to anybody. So the things in themselves haven't made me better. I think what's been reinforced to me is it's our responses to those things. Years and years ago, when I was a wee boy, somebody once said, situations will either make you bitter or better. Right. Oh, okay. But of course, the thing that connects those two things are choices. it's not life itself that makes you a better person. It's your responses to the situations of life. So you could be born with a golden spoon in your mouth and waste your life.
Right,
you could be born on the wrong side of the tracks and be a success. It's down to huge choices we're making, and the power of choice is something that's very human. God in his creative order only made humans with the ability to make moral, ethical, spiritual choices. But the power of choice is dynamic. So I've become better in the sense that some of the things I believed, I really believe.
Right, okay. So tested your faith, and at the end of it you could say,
totally, I really believe that.
I really believe
all right, I would put my mortgage, my vital organs on the table because I believe that now. So that, in that sense, it's made me better. It's made me more appreciative of what I've got. It makes you realise split second everything can change. You can go from life's cool, brilliant, amazing to, it can all change in a literally split second of time. A phone call, whatever. So it's made me much, much more appreciative, and it has actually empowered me to be more determined to use what I've got, who I am, and whatever time is on my clock. I have made a determination that I've always believed, but these experiences have really focused that I will live till I die.
Fantastic.
So the things in themselves, my goodness, I wouldn't want to go through any of them again. If I could avoid any of that, that would be great. But it's the responses to those things. It's the recognition of great friends and family, truth that we believe, opportunities that I actually already have. And even though things have been taken from us, there's still tons of things we have. I'm making a decision today, this day, I've got an opportunity to live. And I want to live. And I'll leave you today and I'll go and spend a mentoring session with a young man, and I will pour the best of my energy into him for an hour and a half
to help him.
because I want him to be the best he can be.
Fantastic.
And if it's done anything for us, it's reinstilled those ideas into our lives.
Awesome. I can't say thank you. I've been blessed sitting here, and I know if I've been blessed, everyone else is going to be blessed. So where can we get the book? Obviously, we'll put up an image on the screen of the book, but where can you get the book? And I would recommend everybody to read this.
Thank you so
it's
much.
amazing.
Thank you so
where
much.
can we get the book?
It's on Kindle, so if you like
fantastic.
electronic books, just Amazon, stuff like that, or any Kindle store will get you that, so it's Beyond Broken. You could also get it's on major bookstores, so Eden Books, Amazon stocks it, Kingsway are stocking it, so it's again, if in doubt, Amazon.
Brilliant. Tell them about you've got a site as well there, so they can see your passports that we mentioned.
Thank you.
Your
I've got a personal website. It's all the W's, Dr. John Andrews, drjohnandrews.co.uk, and the books are all there, and little ways in which
you buy books from there as well.
You can. It's all through PayPal, all safe and sound. So if you're interested, do that.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure once again. Look
Absolute joy, man. Bless you. Absolute joy.
Thank you.
Thank you.